All this is about at every level is control. And TC put it perfectly that this morning when we talked about it, just like what Tim MacMahon is doing is telling both sides of a story, which is fair. But the Nico and Mavs side of the story is simply just ego. And it's really just, if you don't mind me saying, Nico Harrison is just a giant pussy. Because when these things come up at work, you can be an adult about it. You ever worked with somebody that you maybe didn't get along with all that well, personally?
Of course.
Kind of figure it out because you both want the same thing?
Yeah.
Like to keep your job and to make
You end up
money
having
and
to kind of talk together.
have success.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, that your job, you've been hired to do this radio show or to be the steward of this basketball team. There's going to be people you don't like. Probably going to be a pretty good chance that you get cucked every now and then. And you're going to take it because that's your job. And adults work out conflicts with people that they don't like without being cowards about it. And he's just being a giant fucking coward about it. Because every one of these things, there's a point where communication could have happened. And at worst, the communication is Nico says, I can't deal with this guy. I don't like it. But that's part of it. I just don't like it. I don't like that he's over there doing his own work. Tim says that during that time when he was working out over to the side by himself, he, how does he describe it? That the team had trouble getting access to his MRI results from his European trainers. And I'm like, again, these people are European. They're probably not responding to your every beck and call. We're in a very like Wall Street culture here where you're like, get back to me with my email in 10 minutes. They don't always do that. And they said that when he was working out, they wanted him over-focused with team activities, and he was like, no, I'm working out. So fault on his side, I don't know. But it's tough for me to fault Luka for feeling alienated when he was systematically alienated. Like they engineered an entire chain of events to piss him off, and the first time he was like, I don't know, dude, I'm going to work out with these guys, the guys who had me put up 33 points on 37 minutes in 100 games last year. I'm going to work with them because I don't trust you. Well, when that happened, Nico and Kid got together and said, don't like this. They're pissed off. And that's when MacMahon goes into like, hey, look, Kid played 19 years and was obsessed with longevity. I'm like, I seriously doubt he was at 24.
Yeah.
25. But it's fun now to talk about Jason Kidd like he was,
It's like they ran from the problem.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's cowardly.
Confronting the problem. And also, though, I mean, part of this calculation is just not – how could you X's and O's not understand basketball? Like, I think Anthony Davis is very good. But, again, 5 years older. Or is it 4? 4?
No,
5?
it's 5. It's a full 5, almost 6.
5 years older. And a different position, like the usage of Luka, that's the thing. Again, it's the quarterback. Maybe you can call it the quarterback versus the wide receiver.
It's also
to call him a tight end might be diminishing it a little bit.
I think a wide receiver tight end is a good comp. It's also he's not getting better.
Yeah, or it's a defensive line, something. Yeah, it's something that's really not the same at all. In fact, maybe edge rusher is the best thing.
Sure, okay.
You're great at defense. You're the best edge rusher in the game. But you would never trade straight up the best quarterback for the best edge rusher in the game.
Not unless you had another one.
Right.
And you don't, if somehow randomly, you're the Thunder.
And that's
basically, right? You've got KD, Durant, and Harden. Okay.
Go back to, at least as critical as Cuban can get about this is that they didn't get enough of a haul. Because that's the main thing.
Yeah, there's
when Rudy Gobert was traded, you're like, oh my gosh, 5 firsts?
Yeah.
Clearly, you got a player that you would consider worth a couple of firsts, but you just got to get way, way, way more.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talking here.
Like you have to get pieces that say that everybody nods. Bill Simmons, Tim MacMahon, all the real NBA people, Windhorst, everybody nods and says they're really the favorites now for the next couple of years. Now, these players that they acquired, they somehow got KD, AD, and something else. And they're like, wow, this is a team that right now Vegas is going to jump out and say they're the favorite to win it all.
They got
for the next 3 years. But that's what you're trading for, the long-term possibilities of building your whole franchise and all that.
The way that what's his name?
And they didn't do that, yeah.
Kirk Goldsberry put it to us was there should be a guy wearing a superstar in 2031 wearing a Mavericks jersey because of this trade. Like a superstar that you've probably had to spend 3 first-round picks to acquire by just taking shots or moving up. There will not be. There will not be. So that's a lot of it. There is some talk of, like you said, the reaction from other GMs. Unsurprisingly, Tim's like, I haven't talked to one that thought this was good. They're all hitting me up independently, like, what the F are they thinking? This is insane. The line Tim kept using was he heard, I can understand wanting to be out of the Luka Doncic business, but you don't do it for this. And that was like 1 or 2 execs he talked to. I thought you would enjoy this part of it because it involves Pelinka. When he's tracing the meeting at the coffee place and everything, this is far from the first time that Harrison had broached the idea of trading for Davis. But it was the first time that he piqued Pelinka's interest. Doncic had never been part of the discussion before. Quote, that sped things up, a source familiar with
No way.
Yeah, no, I could see that. But I thought the most telling quote that really kind of sums up the final chapter is from a Mavs official. We enabled him for years because we were scared of him eventually wanting to leave. At the end of the day, we shipped him off because he became the very thing that we created.
Damn.
Now, that's from their point of view. I can line up
that
for you.
That we created this monster.
That he's this monster. Now,
yeah.
I can line up for you Maxey, Keefe, Quentin Grimes, I don't know, Dorian, anybody who's ever played with the guy who's like, guy's baller. That's it. We're not worried about what he's doing during practice, and to the extent that we are, he practices hard or he makes us better. You got to have some descent from somewhere else to support
you know what? It was a weird locker room. We'd walk on eggshells. We'd do somebody.
And I don't expect that from like PJ right now, but you need more. And you need Dirk. Dirk is now on the record as of the other day saying, I had absolutely no issues with the idea of the Mavs building around Luka for the future. Now, Dirk hadn't been involved in the day-to-day for 2 years, basically since Dumont bought the team. And he'll tell you, like, I don't have anything to do with this. But don't you think you'd feel a lot better if you privately or through whispers, which we would hear, heard that Dirk had a problem with Luka long-term than just Nico or an anonymous Mavs official? You better be a big problem to be a big enough problem to be moved coming off of a finals appearance on an MVP-level year. And it's just because they were weak. They were cowardly about it.
The conniving nature of Jason Kidd.
Which we always knew was a factor. People grow, people can temper things. But I think you kind of are what you are on that front.
Well, that was stuff we really pointed out hard when he was hired. That's what his whole history was. And, at the end, it was like, okay, I mean, they got to the finals, and I see where they're going to extend Kidd. You might have wondered, is he the guy, X's and O's wise, to do it? Would they ever make a move like Golden State once did with Mark Jackson? Because they were making the playoffs every year and getting better every year. Their record improved every year under Mark Jackson, but they still kind of thought, in the end, this isn't going to work. Here's Steve Kerr. I think this can work a lot better, and it did.
It's bold, but yeah.
But that's also where Jason Kidd does appear to have quite a bit of power here.
Yeah, talk about the monster you created.
You would have thought. I mean, even Rick Carlisle, who
monster.
I don't think Luka liked Rick Carlisle. But I don't think Rick Carlisle would have ever signed off on this.
Hell no.
He realizes, he's an X's and O's basketball guy that realizes He's, what was it? A week into Luka being on the team where he kind of let him loose and you're running this thing?
Yeah.
He would never do that with a rookie.
Yeah, he knew.
We had criticized him, you're not giving Dennis Smith Jr. enough playing time here as he's a rookie. You're not, he's the old school coach that never, you can't give young player, and then he did it with Luka because he realized this talent is unbelievable.
He held back Roddy B.
He held back Rodrigue Beaubois.
You say this in jest.
That's what we thought.
No, you're right. And the more we zoom out on this, we're just guessing.
The worse it gets, though.
The worse it gets. I hear things. You hear things one way. You hear things the other. At first, it was like, oh, Nico and Kid are a package deal. Then you started evaluating the moves, and you start hearing things. It's like, I don't even really know if these guys vibe that much. They kind of just got hired at the same time. But then, we're getting emails from people that are like, hey, I actually played golf with them in Montana together this summer when they were up there visiting Phil. And they spend a lot of time together, and now we've got this where it's a lot of Nico and Kid, and they're at the. I don't know. I just don't think that it was ever an option, as Blake kind of summed it up with, "This is the monster you created." I don't think they were ever going to move on from Jason Kidd while Nico Harrison was GM, ever. It's like now this is just the thing. They're tied together now. Nico's flat out said, this is for the next 3 or 4 years. He does kind of sound like Kid. So they're not thinking about that. It's a very frustrating read because it just comes down to ego and cowardice.